She went out to buy cornflakes and never returned. Lindsay's disappearance. On the evening of November 7, 1994, Lindsay was at home with Colin. Her sister Kate was 20 at the time and had already left the house. It is assumed, although not clear from publicly available information, that Daniel and Juliet, then a young child, were also at home that evening. At around 10 p.m. Lindsay left the house in Cambridge Street to go to a shop and buy a packet of cornflakes while her father Colin was having a conversation on the phone which had started at 9:45 p.m. So no words were exchanged between them. On the way to the shop, Lindsay visited the Trades Club in Hume Street, where her mother Jerry was having a drink with a friend. Jerry offered to buy Lindsay a Coca-Cola, but Lindsay declined and left to continue her journey to the shop. CCTV footage from the Spar supermarket in Crown Street showed Lindsay buying a packet of cornflakes at 10:22 p.m. This was the last footage of Lindsay alive, and she appeared to be behaving completely normally, with no sign of any concern. She was also not carrying anything such as a bag, other than the packet of cornflakes she had set out to buy. Lindsay never arrived home, although this fact went unnoticed until the morning of November 8th, when Jerry was out for the evening and, in her own words, made the mistake of her life by not checking on Lindsay when she got home. Colin was on the phone from 9:45 p.m. to 10:20 p.m. and was also unaware of his daughter's failure to return. On the morning of November 8th, 4 Boys newsagents called Rimmer's home because Lindsay had failed to turn up for her morning newspaper delivery, at which point the alarm was raised. Lindsay Jo Rimmer was born on February 17, 1981 to parents Geraldine, Jerry, and Colin Rimmer. Lindsay lived with her parents, older brother Daniel, older sister Kate and younger sister Juliet in a house on Cambridge Road in the town of Hebden Bridge, in the northern county of West Yorkshire in the United Kingdom, which has recently become famous as the setting for the BAFTA-winning BBC drama Happy Valley. Lindsay was described by her mother Jerry as a well-behaved, conscientious and happy child, a girl so organized and efficient that her family nicknamed her Safi, after a character in the British sitcom Absolutely Fabulous who displayed similar traits. She was a conscientious and popular student in Year 9 at the local Calder High School, and expressed interest in going to university for a degree once she finished her secondary education. Lindsay recently took a part-time job at a local newsagent, for Bowie's Newsagents, to earn some money, at least partly to fund what her mother described as a growing interest in fashion. Lindsay's home life was not always easy. The family pub in Rotherham went bankrupt, and later, under the pressure of financial problems, her parents separated. Lindsay, her brother Daniel and her father Colin then lived separately from the rest of the family in a caravan at Lower Rough Head Farm, Hebden Bridge. For 2 years, Lindsay and Daniel shared one caravan and Colin lived in another on the farm. While Daniel seemed to enjoy the rural lifestyle, occasionally returning to help the farmer, he was dipping sheep the day before Lindsay disappeared. Lindsay seems to have been less keen on it and missed her friends. However, her parents eventually reconciled, and the whole family were living together again by the time Lindsay disappeared in November 1994. Search and discovery. Despite family and friends arguing vehemently that Lindsay was not the sort of girl who would leave home, The police initially believed she was more likely to have run away, speculating that she was unhappy at home, which her family denied. Despite this initial belief, an investigation unit was set up, and extensive appeals and searches were carried out. Lindsay's older sister, Kate, played her sister in a television reconstruction of Lindsay's last known movements in the hope that this Lindsay was found. In the late morning of April 12, 1995, 5 months after Lindsay disappeared, her body was found by canal workers digging in the Rochdale Canal about a mile from the center of Hebden Bridge. Police admitted that the section of canal where the remains were found had not been part of previous searches of the canal, a grave error by police who had failed to search upstream of Lindsay's home, which would prove costly to the investigation. Lindsay's body was weighed down by a 20-pound concrete boulder, which the killer had taken from the side of the canal. A Freedom of Information request to West Yorkshire Police in 2021 suggests that the boulder was attached to her remains with a rope, although I cannot find confirmation elsewhere that this was the case. It is unclear where the rope came from, if at all. It may have been brought by the killer, suggesting some form of pre-planning, or it may also have been found by the killer near the canal. Lindsay was still wearing the same clothes she was pictured wearing in the CCTV footage taken at Spar on the night she disappeared. Lindsay's remains were taken to Halifax Royal Infirmary for a post-mortem examination by Home Office pathologist Professor Mike Green, assisted by Dr. Naomi Carter. The pathologist concluded that Lindsay died as a result of strangulation, with a larynx slightly flattened against the spine and a prominent band of congestion across the midline of the neck muscles. Halifax Courier article from 2000, quoted on HebWeb. Much of the report has been kept confidential for investigative reasons, including information about the arrangement of Lindsay's clothing when she was found, but police have advised against believing that sexual assault had occurred. Investigation. Investigators believe that Lindsay was murdered the night she disappeared, and that she had already been placed in the canal by the time she was reported missing on the morning of November 8, 1994. The section of canal where her remains were found is near the Rimmer family home, so police believed it was likely that Lindsay was picked up in a car by someone while she was returning home from the Spar store, perhaps someone she knew, since she was thought to be a sensible and cautious girl who would be unlikely to get into a car with a stranger. Police speculated that while it was likely that Lindsay knew her killer, she may have met him as recently as a few nights before her death, at a bonfire night celebration in the town on November 5. Near the canal area where her remains were discovered was a factory that had long since been closed and demolished, and investigators theorized that the killer, who was sexually attracted to Lindsay, took her for some form of relationship, and when she refused, killed her, perhaps accidentally. In the 3 decades since Lindsay's murder, police have spoken to more than 5. Police clearly believe Lindsay was killed by someone they knew, but other possibilities have been investigated or suggested by outsiders over the years, and I have summarized the main theories below. Honda Man. Police discovered that a red Honda Civic stolen in Meanwood, near Leeds, on November 6 had been seen several times in Hebden Bridge, near where Lindsay was last seen, and was seen again in the city during the evening of November 12. An electronic report was issued for the driver, described as a bearded man, and police attempted to trace him and the vehicle. They discovered that the Honda man had tried to talk to a number of teenage girls in the city around the time of Lindsay's disappearance, including some of Lindsay's school friends. He was spotted near the Spar store where Lindsay was last seen alive. The car was found abandoned in Sheffield 10 days after Lindsay's disappearance. Recent appeals in 2024 have focused on possible links between the murder and the red Honda, suggesting police believe the man in the car may have played a role in Lindsay's death. John Taylor. Taylor was convicted of the murder of Leeds schoolgirl Leanne Tiernan in November 2000, a series of rapes. He is also a suspect in a number of other murders in the West Yorkshire area. Police have investigated him in the Lindsay case, but no evidence has been found linking him to her murder. John Oswin, a killer and Holloway strangler, and were seeking his DNA in the Lindsay case. However, police describe this as speculation. Jimmy Savile. One of the more bizarre theories surrounding Lindsay's murder is that Savile committed the crime. The suggestion comes as a result of Savile apparently regularly staying at a friend's caravan in Crag Valley, a mile from the Lower Rough Head estate where Lindsay lived with her father and brother for 2 years, and Savile renting a garage in the town to park his Rolls-Royce. In the month that Lindsay disappeared, Savile's whereabouts were unconfirmed, and he was largely absent from the public eye, adding to speculation of a link. However, the link seems tenuous at best. Francisco Arce Montes. In 2007, true crime author Wensley Clarkson claimed in his book Predator, Portrait of a Serial Killer, that Montes, the killer of 13-year-old British schoolgirl Caroline Dickinson, murdered her while she slept in a hostel in France, and was responsible for Lindsay's murder. Clarkson claimed that a retired police officer told him that Montes, who was working as a waiter in London in 1994, had visited York and was on a hunting trip in West Yorkshire on the date of Lindsay's disappearance. However, Clarkson was never able to provide any evidence to support his claims, and refuses to name the officer who he says gave him this information. Vince Robson. In 2017, a retired Cleveland police detective claimed that Vince Robson, a man questioned in connection with the murders of Julie Hogg and Tina Bell, had connections to the Rimmer family and the Hebden Bridge area. Robson moved to Hebden Bridge in 1990 and worked at the Trades Club, a place Lindsay visited to see her mother Jerry on her way to the Spar store. Robson is said to be one of the last people to have seen Lindsay alive on the night she disappeared, and the detective involved believes he must be the prime suspect. These claims are explored in more detail in the Channel 4 documentary In the Footsteps of Killers.